Ordinary meeting of Council on the 8th of October 2025, and I declare this meeting open at 6 p.m. Welcome those present, and welcome to those that have joined us in the gallery and those online. The City of Swan acknowledges the traditional custodians of this region, the Whadjuk people of the Noongar Nation, and their continuing connection to the land, waters and community. And we pay our respects to elders past, present and their descendants. The City's election caretaker provisions policy requires candidates of relevant elections to identify themselves as an election candidate prior to asking a question or making a statement at a council meeting. The following councillors are candidates: Councillor Catalano, Councillor Zanino, Councillor Singh, Councillor Bowman and Councillor Howlett. This statement is taken to apply to the entirety of the meeting, and the above councillors are not required to identify their candidacy each time they address the meeting. And these provisions also apply to candidates in the gallery. The terms and conditions of entry into this meeting are posted on the door just as you enter. Please ensure that you have read them prior to attending this meeting and please abide by them. Tonight's attendance and apologies. We have council members in attendance, except for Councillor Ringo, who is on leave, and I have no apologies at this stage. Part 4, disclosure of financial and proximity interests and interests affecting impartiality. We have not received any declarations as yet. Are there any councillors, thank you, that need to submit a declaration of interest? If there is, could you please fill out the form and just hand that up to the CEO? So I do have a disclosure of interest from Councillor Henderson for item 14.3.3, which is an impartiality. The extent is I have written to the CEO regarding water management issues at my home, and this item is isolated from my address. Thank you. And we move to part 5, which is public question time. So questions and answers recorded in the minutes of the meeting may be summarised in accordance with the Local Government Administration Regulations of 1996, and all questions received for this meeting have been answered and responded to and have been included in this schedule. All questions will be published in the minutes of this meeting. So 5.1 is answers to questions which were taken on notice. We had one question from Mr. Jeffrey Knight, and this has been answered and will form part of the meeting, the minutes of meeting. 5.2 is questions relating to the reports that are contained in the agenda. 5.2.1, questions of which due notice has been given. There are nil. 5.2.2, questions without due notice for items in the agenda only, and we have not received any questions without notice at this time. Is there anyone in the gallery that is not registered wishing to ask a question relating to the items in the agenda? You can ask up to 5 questions. No? Okay. 5.3, other questions to items not contained in the agenda. 5.3.1, questions of which due notice has been given. We had 5 questions from Mr. Grant, and these have been answered and form part of the minutes of the meeting also. 5.3.2 is questions without due notice. So we received 5 questions from Mr. Humphrey Bogart, and these have been answered and they will also form part of the minutes of this meeting. We have had Ms. Janzek and Mr. Trevor Snook register to ask questions. Ms. Eck, if you would like to come to the podium, and you are able to ask up to 5 questions. Thank you.
Thank you. The first question I have is directed to the Acting Executive Director of Operations. Do you acknowledge that there are major problems associated with the rising groundwater and flooding due to the rollout of urban development in the Swan Urban Growth Corridor?
Thank you. We will ask if you'd like to take that on notice or answer.
I'll take that one on notice.
Thank you. Do you have a second question?
Yes. The question is directed to the Acting Executive Director of Planning and Development, who I understand is Phil Russell. Do you acknowledge that there are major problems associated with the rising groundwater and flooding due to the rollout of urban development in the Swan Urban Growth Corridor?
Mr. Russell.
On notice, thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much. Do you have a third question?
I do. I have a third and a fourth question, and if you're going to take them on notice, I'll ask them both together. The same question is directed to you, Mayor, and also to the CEO. I would really appreciate a response. And the last question is, what does the city intend to do to address the problem of rising groundwater and flooding associated with the rollout of urban development in the Swan Urban Growth Corridor?
Well, thank you very much for that question. Mr. CEO?
Thank you. And Ms Eck, good evening. It's nice to see you. You're probably aware that the City has commissioned a review in conjunction with DUA on this matter. We have engaged a consultant who also looking at aspects of our own drainage system to determine what, if any, issues exist in the area. So that study will take a period of time. It's looking at hydrological data. It also looks at the historical data records that DUA hold. And when we have that information, we'll come back to Council on this matter.
That doesn't actually address the question though, does it?
We will be able to give you a more detailed response then if we're able to consult with staff then. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Is there anyone else who would like to? Mr. Snook?
Yeah, Trevor Snook, 75 George F Street, Henley Brook. On the 1st of September 25, I wrote to Stephen Kane, CEO, City of Swan, and Sarah McQuaid, Acting CEO, regarding the ongoing flooding issue at my property in Henley Brook. As of today, I have not received any update. My questions are: 1. Does the City intend to reinstate the St Leonards Creek drainage system with its easements and tributaries to eliminate flooding by increasing water flow? 2. Why is it that developers are permitted to pump water into a blocked drainage system, exacerbating flooding? Question 3. The persistent flooding has led to increased mosquito breeding, posing significant health risks to my family and the wider community. What actions will the City take to address these health concerns? Thank you.
Thank you for that question. I do have those questions here, but I'll ask Mr. McLeod if he can respond, please.
Hi, Mr. Snook. I'll answer the first two questions there and hand over to Phil for the third one. So in relation to the drainage systems that are existing, we are looking to unblock the existing blockages that do exist within St Leonards Creek, and we are also looking to reshape previously existing drainage systems in the easements that the City owns. We're currently restricted by access in terms of the current waterlogging on the ground in that area. And I'm happy to discuss this further with you after the meeting or during the week sometime. In regards to the second question, there is no additional water being pumped into the St Leonards Creek by the developers. There is pumping that is occurring, which is diversions around some of the existing blockages, but it is not additional water that wasn't already heading into the system.
Through you, Madam Mayor, in response to Mr Snook's third question around persistent flooding and what the City is doing in relation to treating mosquito problems from standing water. The response to that is that we respond on a case-by-case basis. So if a resident alerts us to what they perceive as issues with some standing water remnant from recent rainfall, we can investigate that to determine whether it's a mosquito breeding problem and take action. So in essence, we respond to those circumstances on a case-by-case basis.
Thank you very much. I'll ask, is there anyone else in the gallery that has not registered that's wishing to ask a question relating to items not in the agenda tonight? No. Thank you. We'll move on to part 6, which is public statement time, and you have 2 minutes to deliver your statement. So registration for public statement time at council meetings was required by 10 a.m. this morning on Wednesday the 8th of October 2025. Public statements are for general matters of the City and not for items on the agenda. We have had Ms Dimpher Knight relating to social media use at Swan Active Midland and Ms Jan Zek relating to City Operations Register to make a 2-minute statement. Ms Knight, if you'd like to come to the podium, and you have 2 minutes. Might need to bend that one down a little bit for her, thank you.
Sorry, I feel as I'm a stranger.
No, that's okay. We might need to just move that microphone around a little bit.
I'm not in the Shire of Swan. I actually am a traitor. I'm in Mundaring. but I use the Swanshire pool. And first of all, I must congratulate you and thank you sincerely for everything you've done to that pool. It's fabulous. And I've been using it since it was first built. So I've followed it for a number of years. I'd also like to thank and support all the support I've received from Corey and Jared, who work in your shire. You probably remember me. I've written you a long letter earlier in the year. But my main concern is the social media. I've spoken to so many people in the pool and the swimming teachers, and they are very concerned with all the social media, particularly in the afternoons when the swimming classes on the parents, the entitled parents come in, they can't sit down quick enough. Mobile phones, tablets, books, or even laptops, and they don't watch their children. And to see children achieve things in the pool, in the class, look up to their parents and get no response because their parents are not looking. It is so upsetting. I've got 3 sons, they're in their 50s now, but it's important, and we are losing these children to just the ignorance of their parents. And I think, and I'm going to make a request, and I don't expect it to be answered tonight, but I would like every one of the councillors to seriously consider it themselves, of reducing all social media from within the pool hall region only. We've had a near drowning because the mother wasn't looking at his child and he couldn't swim and he had no flotation at all on him. And it was a mother that had to barge through 2 mothers that were talking, watching him, and he was coming up and going, help. So for the Shire's sake, your health and safety is important. Please don't forget it, because if anything was to happen, you're going to be hung out to dry because the entitled parents will blame you, because unfortunately the parents of today believe the lifeguards are unpaid childcare workers. And they've got so much work on their hands, they don't need this. I've taught swimming. I've swum all my life. I've swum with state swimming, so I know what I'm talking about. Many years ago, and the rules have changed. The other thing I would like to thank, it's the cafe. Liam is doing a fabulous job in the cafe. I belong to Swanview Probus, and we've had a couple of outings there, and it's been lovely, and we'll continue to support it. Finally, the thing I've got to remember, the cleaning. You have outside cleaning in there. And I went in on Monday to have a shower, and there was literally stacks, and I mean stacks, of black mould on the floor. And that is a disgraceful looking. The pool staff have admitted to me that they're having trouble, and the cleaners were asked to go back and clean. And today I deliberately went into the same shower, different shower. It was nice and clean. I do apologise for those that are being very brutal to your facilities. I know there's a lot of things that have been broken. One of the grates in the door's partly knocked out, and it's just uncontrolled mayhem at times with the kids. And the lifeguards can't be there all the time, but please, thank you for everything you've done to that pool. And I know it's cost a lot of money, because, just quickly, I was here at the original budget meeting to support it for 12 million, and I know you've spent more than that. Thank you very much.
Very much for your statement. I'm sure that staff will follow up on those concerns. Now, last, Ms Janzek, if you would like to come to the podium, and you also have 2 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you. I have consistently spoken about the loss of biodiversity, habitat and drainage associated with the urban rollout. Despite this and copious planning instruments requiring a balance between development and sustainability, the environment, which includes the livability of new suburbs, continues to lose equity. What is being planned and delivered, contrary to rhetoric espoused by proponents, doesn't result in the creation of innovative or sustainable urban communities. It is worse than the 20th century urban sprawl decried as unsustainable by earlier generations of planners and city fathers. Land once modelled and vegetated by time is being denuded, flattened and filled to become characterless plains of treeless, featureless housing. There's no space for a substantial tree on a new urban lot, and barely space for mature street trees. These are hostile environments where people are already struggling to build community. Biodiversity is less than a byline. Failure to understand and plan for local conditions, particularly drainage, are fundamental mistakes. Adverse outcomes are potentially monumental, and if the city does not recognise and take steps to mitigate them now, while there is the opportunity to retain what currently remains of our much acclaimed biological hotspot, then no amount of commendations will replace it. Loss of everything that makes this LGA unique and desirable is swiftly being destroyed. The time to act is now, before land is irretrievably committed. Waiting for a structure plan is too late. That path is littered by the failures of previous plans. Nor should the ratepayers and the city be liable for damages that will accrue. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms Zek. And we have Part 7 petitions. We had no petitions at this stage. Part 8, deputations. All deputations for items on the agenda were heard at the agenda forum held on the 1st of October 2025. Part 9, which is the announcements by myself. I am delighted to announce that recently a prestigious commendation was awarded to the City of Swan, and this was, thank you very much, Mr CEO, this was presented at the Urban Development Institute of Australia, Western Australia Awards for the Excellence Dinner on September the 13th. The awards are widely regarded as the pinnacle of recognition for the urban development and community creation, innovation and sustainability. The City received a commendation in the Local Government Authority of the Year category, demonstrating how we are driving housing supply, developing a collaborative culture with the commercial sector and our strategic approach to housing and infrastructure. Receiving this impressive commendation is a great recognition, particularly of the City's planning assets and development contribution planning team. So thank you very much. Their professionalism and hard work, proving their efforts are sincerely valued. And I'd like you to join me in congratulating all concerned. So thank you very much to our team. Well done. We also move to Part 10, which is leave of absence. I'll ask, is there any council members requesting a leave of absence? If there is, and you could just please fill out that form and hand that up to the CEO and myself, please. Move to Part 11, which is confirmation of minutes. 11.1, confirmation of minutes of the ordinary meeting of council held on the 10th of September 2025. And I'll ask, can I please have a mover? I had Councillor Bowman and a seconder, Councillor Miles. Is there anyone against? No, that's carried. Thank you. And Part 12, business left over from previous meeting. If it was adjourned, there was none. So this moves to Part 13, adoption of those recommendations contained in items that were not withdrawn. So for the benefit of the community members observing the meeting, the council uses an en bloc method of decision making. This means that agenda items where council supports the officer recommendation are not debated separately. One vote is taken on all of the items, and the officer recommendation is therefore the decision of council. The following items have not been withdrawn for individual consideration, and they will be dealt with the en bloc vote. Therefore, the officer recommendation will be the decision of council. And these items are 14.3.1, consideration of submissions, proposed amendment number 231 to City Swan Local Planning Scheme number 17, to integrate short-term rental accommodation provisions for the scheme LPS 17-231, 14.4.1, which is waste fees and charges 2023-24 and 2024-25, 14.5.1, which is the financial management report for the period ending the 31st of August 2025. Item 14.5.2, list of accounts paid for August 2025, and 14.5.3, this is the change in basis of valuation. So I'm going to ask, please, if I might have a mover.
Hi, Madam Mayor. Can I withdraw 14.4.1 for questions?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. And I'll just ask again, can I have a mover? Thank you, Councillor Miles, and a seconder. Thank you, Deputy Mayor. And is there anyone against? That's carried. So we'll now move to 14, reports withdrawn for debate or absolute majority vote required. The following reports have been withdrawn for debate or have an absolute majority vote in accordance with the Meeting Procedures Local Law 2023 and will be dealt with by council individually. So we have the first item, and I'll just remind councillors that I will need a mover of the officer's recommendation. Thank you, Councillor Bowman. And we have 14.3.2, which is the amendment number 1 to local structure plan for lot 7, Chittering Road, Bullsbrook, Swan SP 2017/6A, page 27. Withdrawn for debate by Councillor Catalano. Oops. Had a mover, sorry? That was the officers. That's Councillor Bowman. And a seconder. Sorry, Councillor Miles, thank you. Was there anyone against? Wish to debate it? Thank you. Councillor Catalano. Sorry, Councillor Bowman.
Move it first, but nothing from me.
A seconder? No. And anyone against? Councillor Catalano.
Oh, thank you. Okay, another month, another speech condemning urban sprawl, turning Bullsbrook semi-rural farmland to hot urban treeless tarmac, rows of houses for an almost 1,000% increase in Bullsbrook's population from 7,000 to 85,000 people. A speech opposing squeezing every last housing lot on a housing estate already crammed with residents or to be crammed with residents and their cars on the peri-urban fringes of the Perth metro area with very little infrastructure, including even potable water in this case. A place where people should be given the chance for a bit of space. After all, Bullsbrook can never be and will never be the Perth CBD. Instead, it's the same old tired 1950s suburban house and package sprawl model because of an insatiable, ravenous appetite for easy profits now, even though there's plenty of evidence that it will result in huge, maybe even insurmountable costs in the future. This will not work to alleviate a housing crisis because after more than 50 years of clearing for greenfield urban sprawl and packing young families into cramped suburbs where the usual parking place is the footpath, no public transport, and there is nothing to do, and we still have a crisis housing availability. How's that possible? This is so risky, and even in 2018, the Property Council of Australia warned that Perth could not afford to keep expanding. To do so is to burden future generations with a less sustainable, less efficient, and less livable city. A 2024 WA Today article warned that treeless estates on Perth's urban fringe are vulnerable to abandonment in future, to become ghost suburbs, inhospitable, because of climate change and water scarcity. Cheap sprawl developments like this result in destruction of bushland and the environment, just as it impedes development of good quality infill development around existing infrastructure. The results in Perth is dismally failing to meet its targets of infill targets, failing in 2023 to its second lowest level of 29%, it's the worst of all possible worlds, sprawl and no decent infill. Chief Executive Brendan Gore conceded Perth's housing patterns were the reverse of what they should be, with big blocks close to the CBD and smaller blocks the further you travel outward. In 2023, WA Today quoted Limnios Property Group Managing Director, "Unless we act quickly to contain urban sprawl, future generations will call our civic leaders and business leaders of today the greedy generation that had zero consideration for the environment, financial waste through unneeded freeway expansions and infrastructure costs just to satisfy development that doesn't make sense." Unquote. Resilience to future threats does not mean continuing to do the same thing that brought about the threat in the first place. Tonight, we need to make one small step away from improving urban sprawl and tightly packed in urban sprawl on the peri-urban fringe and insist on better designed urban areas and homes for better futures for young families whilst protecting the natural environment. And that's why I am not supporting this amendment tonight, and I urge you not to as well.
Thank you, Councillor Catalano. I'd like to ask any councillors like to speak for the motion. Any councillors like to speak against the motion? No? I'll ask for your right of reply.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Madam Mayor, I was a bit confused in that speech because none of it was relevant, because I'm pretty sure we're talking about 14.32, and I quickly looked through my agenda to find what Councillor Catalano was talking about. And I'm still confused. And I'm confused now too because I can only rebut comments that Councillor Catalano made, but I can't rebut anything because they weren't relevant. But let me just make councillors aware. This is not approving a structure plan. It's already approved, councillors. So saving the world, quoting facts and figures from who knows who and where is irrelevant. What we're being asked in front of us is, are we happy for a minor change? Now, Councillor Catalano, I would have thought you would be happy on this one because what was approved and what they're asking to change slightly increases the POS. Not a lot, but it slightly increases it. It also reduces the amount of road network.
Just one moment, Councillor Bowman. If you resume your seat, please. What's your point of order, Councillor Catalano? If you could quote the page, please. And
Oh, no, I haven't got the quote.
Thank
Don't
you.
worry
I
about it.
won't hold that point of order. Thank you, Councillor Bowman.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Madam Mayor, to continue on, there's less road network. So I thought Councillor Catalano would be happy with that, from what it was to the small changes with less
Point of
road
order.
network.
Just one moment, Councillor Bowman. If you could resume your seat, please. Councillor Catalano, if you could quote the point
Relevance,
of order,
don't keep
please.
bringing me into it. Just address
I'm
the
so
issue.
sorry. If you can't
Don't
quote the
keep
point
bringing
of order,
me into
I
it,
won't
just address the
uphold the point of
issues
order. Thank you,
that I
Councillor Bowman.
raised,
If you'd like
not
to
me.
continue, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Madam Mayor, the only person I can actually bring into this debate is Councillor Catalano because Councillor Catalano was the only person that
One
spoke.
moment. Please, can you quote the relevant...
Please address the issues
Councillor-
and not
Councillor
me.
Catalano,
and not what
unless
I-
you're able to
address what I
quote
said. Address what I said.
Unless you're able to quote the
Just
immediate
address
procedural.
what I
Thank you.
said.
Councillor Bowman, if you'd like to continue, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Madam Mayor, I urge councillors to look at this report. I urge councillors to actually understand what we are being asked to do. I urge councillors to look and actually think, is it better than what has already been approved? I believe it is because it's increasing POS. It's reducing hard surfaces. And so, councillors, I see this as a beneficial outcome. And I can't go back and change what has been or hasn't been approved previously, like Councillor Catalano is debating.
Thank you, Councillor Bowman. Councillors, I'll now put that to the vote. Those in favour? So I have Councillor Bowman, Councillor McCulloch, Councillor Miles, Councillor Zanino, Councillor Henderson, Councillor Prodovnik and myself. And those against? Councillor Catalano, Councillor Singh, Councillor Jones, and Deputy Mayor Johnson and Councillor Howlett. And the motion is lost. Sorry, it's carried 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 to 1, 2, 3, 4, 7, 5. Thank you. There we go. And now we move to 14.3.3, which is the draft Bennett Springs East Improvement Scheme number 1 on page 168. Proposed motion by Councillor Catalano. If you'd like to please read out your alternate motion.
Thank you. That Council resolves to 1. Advise the Western Australian Planning Commission that the improvement scheme number 1 Bennett Springs East is not in line with the objectives of the City of Swan's local planning strategy. 2. Forward a copy of this resolution and the reasons to the Western Australian Planning Commission. The reasons for the motion. 1. Objective 1 of the city's local planning strategy is, quote, protect the city's natural resources, provide responsible environmental management and manage impacts of climate change, unquote, page 7. The improvement scheme number 1 is inconsistent with the objective to protect the city's natural resources, provide responsible environmental management and manage impacts of climate change. A. The local planning strategy identifies protecting the environment as one of its major features and acknowledges, quote, rapid population growth can place significant pressures on the environment, and the local planning strategy contains strategies to ensure that the city accommodate this growth in a way that does not negatively impact on the environment and responds to the challenges of planning for climate change. Page 3. The improvement scheme is inconsistent with meeting the objectives, and one of the main features being protecting the environment of the local planning strategy to protect the environment. 1. The improvement scheme will result in the clearing of thousands of mature trees. The trees described as non-invasive and completely degraded, as well as the native trees, hundreds of jarrah, marri, chewit, prickly bark, flooded gum and paperbark trees described as degraded all provide habitat for threatened fauna species, and that includes birds. 2. The improvement scheme will require millions of cubic metres of sand fill, which will need to be imported to achieve sufficient separation between maximum groundwater and habitable floor level, and the sand infill will be sourced through the destruction of endangered Banksia woodlands, with further loss of essential habitat for endangered and other native flora and fauna. B. Water management. The city's local planning strategy states, quote, there is a need to manage groundwater dependent ecosystems and groundwater abstraction in relation to water levels and water quality to protect these ecosystems. Unquote, page 10. The improvement scheme is inconsistent with the objective for water management. 1. The improvement scheme area has similar geology to other areas in the growth corridor, where the water-sensitive urban design concept of infiltration for draining stormwater from urban areas has not been successful and has resulted in flooding within the new suburbs and contributed to damage from rising groundwater levels on properties along the urban-rural interface. 2. The improvement scheme relies on a drainage strategy that will discharge excessive poor quality water into the conservation category Bennett Brook and Horse Swamp waterways, and the continuous inundation of these waterways will result in the eventual death of fringing vegetation, loss of habitat, and change the hydrological regime. 3. The improvement scheme will require the loss of thousands of mature trees that will further contribute to increased levels of groundwater that can no longer be taken up via tree evapotranspiration. 4. The improvement scheme does not provide sufficient buffers for Horse Swamp and Bennett Brook to adequately protect and conserve biodiversity. C. Car dependency. The city's local planning strategy states car dependency causes adverse impacts on the environment. Unquote, page 10. The improvement scheme, number 1, shows the Bennett Springs precinct will not, that should be just take out, but will not be a sustainable or effective transit-orientated development and is inconsistent with the local planning strategy, as it, 1, will be located in the centre of a small and isolated area bound by 2 busy roads, being Drumpellier and Marshall, making access difficult for non-car users from surrounding suburbs of Dayton and Bennett Springs, provides very little retail, commercial or community facilities in the precinct, and the precinct residents will have to use their own cars to access shopping centres, education facilities, schools in adjacent suburbs, plus all the other infrastructure that they need. 3, proposes a low-density population of only 1,200 residences with an ongoing dependency on car use, which completely defeats the argument for transit-orientated development in this precinct. D, climate change and adaptation. The city's local planning strategy states promote planning measures that encourage climate change adaptation and mitigation to ensure our communities are both resilient and livable. Unquote, page 13. The improvement scheme is inconsistent with the local planning strategy as it proposes 1. The existing topography to be altered by cutting and filling, clearing of thousands of trees and elimination of the unique natural environment and local identity to a generally flat treeless plain. 2. The clearing of thousands of mature trees will reduce the tree canopy from around 10 to 15% to less than 1%, which will significantly contribute to the urban heat sink effect. 2. The City of Swan should not be responsible or liable for associated damage arising from the implementation of this improvement scheme number 1 Bennett Springs East. 3. Further development along the growth corridor should be halted until the water management designs have been reviewed and made fit for purpose for the local conditions.
Thank you, Councillor Catalano. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Howlett. Thank you. Is there any councillor who wishes to speak against the motion? Councillor Miles. Thank you. And Councillor Catalano.
Thank you. Tonight our task is to identify if the improvement scheme number 1, Bennett Springs East, which is the only document before us, whether it's in line with the city's local planning strategy or not. I say it isn't. Because on page 1 of the city's local planning strategy, it is identified that protecting the environment is one of the major features because the city contains some of Perth's most important environmental assets and is part of an internationally recognised biodiversity hotspot, and that the strategy seeks to ensure that the city accommodates growth in a way that does not negatively impact on the environment and responds to the challenges of planning for climate change, unquote. This improvement scheme 1 proposes to clear thousands of mature trees that provide habitat that transpire groundwater and that are integral to maintaining temperatures for resilient and livable communities. Clearing of these magnificent trees does not protect the environment and will make the City of Swan hotter and unlivable. The local planning strategy states management of water levels and water quality interdependent ecosystems is needed. Yet the improvement scheme proposes the so-called water-sensitive urban design concept and using Horse Swamp and Bennett Brook as urban stormwater drains, thereby negatively impacting on their sensitive ecosystems. We've seen and heard how in the real world this infiltration system of urban drainage has played out in areas close by that have similar geology and hydrology. Only this winter, cars in Brabham were driving through expanses of water, and in Dayton, the Cranley Street drainage swale filled and flooded into the street in front of the primary school. We've had deputations, and again another deputation tonight from property owners adjacent to the urban areas, with results from their monitoring that show that since 2015, groundwater levels have risen by more than 1 metre, even in the summer months. There have been additional images from Dayton to Henley Brook of flooded properties that has ended up in the press. And what we're getting is increasingly unusable agricultural land. These problems are not going to go away and will likely get worse. There will be damages to pay, and solutions have to be found quickly to avoid more loss and damage. Yet no one seems to be listening, and this improvement scheme relies on the very same water management concepts that are now failing our communities and that will cost the City of Swan ratepayers dearly. The city should not accept any more liability for ongoing damages from failing drainage systems in new developments, such as is proposed in this improvement scheme.
Thank you, Councillor Catalano.
Move an extension of 1 minute.
Is anyone against? For 1 minute, thank you.
The improvement scheme is not in line with the city's planning strategy to cut car dependency. The improvement scheme will not be a sustainable and effective transit-oriented development. and this is surely some cruel joke. All the environmental damage for only 1,200 residential dwellings with no school, no supermarket, no shopping centre, no community centre. And so, of course, residents will have no other option than to own a car to access the basics of life, as no one expects any of them to actually get their shopping trolley out, make the hot, expensive and long journey to Ellenbrook, to do their shopping, lug their shopping all the way back to Bennett Springs East. Just as no one expects that residents in Dayton or Bennett Springs will forego their car and make the long hot walk to the train station. Instead, they will drive into the suburb in the vain hope that they might be able to squeeze a car space
Thank you, Councillor
and catch a
Catalano.
train to Perth before giving up
That's your
altogether.
Extra minute, thank you. I'll ask Councillor Hallett as the seconder.
Thank you, and thank you, Councillor Catalano, for once again leading a great debate and for your comprehensive and informed speech. Councillor Catalano clearly outlines the reasons why this Bennett Brook East Draft Improvement Plan fails to meet the objectives of our local planning strategy and we should advise WAPC to that effect. Councillors, we are here tonight to provide comment only because yes, this is a state government project and yes, the Minister will make the decision. But councillors, we need to stick to our policies and our planning documents and ensure that our local planning strategy, the overarching document that guides development in the City of Swan, is followed, adhered to, regardless of who the applicant or the developer is. We owe that to the residents of the City of Swan who elected us to represent them and their best interests, and to ensure that we clearly and consistently apply the instruments that guide our planning, regardless of who the applicant is. I urge you to take on board what Councillor Catalano mentioned tonight. Looking at the TOD, I couldn't see where the parking associated with the TOD is. It's not listed there in the planning. There's no parking associated with that train station. In fact, the delivery of the station is subject to a future government funding decision. Everything hinges around this train station, and I don't see it happening. I see what we'll be creating, or what will be created, is an island of houses with no commuting, no neighbourhood centre, no schools, no community centre. I also note that this scheme area currently provides limited habitat for the forest red-tailed and the Borden's black cockatoo, both of whom are protected under a federal recovery plan, and that has to be adhered to. That's not optional anymore, thanks to the Wilderness Society's successful ruling in federal court. So there's a lot of things to happen on this plan, and as it is, it's not in line with the City of Swan's draft. The City of Swan's local planning strategy. So I urge you to support Councillor Catalano. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hallett. I'll ask if any councillor who wishes to speak against the motion. Councillor Miles.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, I'm actually rising to speak against Councillor Catalano's motion, and I don't know if this will happen, but I'm just foreshadowing it, the officer's recommendation, anywho. But to address one particular comment about Councillor Catalano, from Councillor Catalano, that the improvement plan won't actually cut down on car dependency. The funny thing is that this is a TOD which is centred around a public transport node, being a train station, and I don't think we drive trains individually. There's one driver and we all sit in it, so I think that actually would reduce car dependency. Further, we're at a stage where there already has been an improvement plan gazetted, and this is actually the draft scheme stage where we only can provide feedback in the extent of saying that we acknowledge that there's an alignment with our city's documents, but ultimately the WAPC is the sole decision maker for this area. So the state will do what the state wants to do, but it's important that we maintain our standing with the state and contribute to this discussion rather than shutting ourselves out as we have done in the past. This improvement scheme actually revolves around a really important urban development in our city within the urban growth corridor, and it's around a Metronet station, which we've commented on before. The Whiteman Park one might not have done it right, but this one would do so certainly, I think. And right now, during a housing crisis where we have younger generations myself, we're acutely aware of the struggles of finding a house and somewhere to live. And right now we have a responsibility to ensure that we work with the state government to get sustainable and appropriate developments done. And obviously we'll find out in the later stages, and we'll have more opportunity to comment as a council on the specifics of the planning through the structure plan phase, where we can really get into the nitty-gritty of it all, and make sure that we do see a right balance with environmental protection and supplying housing, which is essential and really should be a human right. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Miles. I'll ask the councillors, anyone like to speak against the motion? Oh, sorry, for the motion. Anyone like to speak for the motion? Anyone like to speak against the motion?
I have a couple of questions, if I may.
Question?
Under the reasons, 1I, it refers to the scheme will result in the clearing of thousands of mature trees. Have we identified how many trees might actually be cleared?
Mr. Russell, thank you.
Through you, Madam Mayor, not at this stage because we don't have the detailed information supporting a structure plan. So it's an estimate. I suppose it might have been an estimate taken from aerial photography, but it's not. We haven't got any precise details around that at this stage.
I just wanted to get closer to the detail rather than hyperbole. So would it be clearing of hundreds or is it clearing of thousands?
Mr. Russell?
Madam Mayor, at the sake of repeating myself, I can't answer that. As I said, we haven't got that detail with the structure plan.
Yeah, that's what I figured. And that's my problem, is that I'm not sure that this detail is quite right. So the other question is, and I think I'll get the same answer, but I'm going to ask it, require millions of cubic metres of sand. Is it thousands, tens of thousands? Is it millions?
Mr. Russell?
Same answer, Madam Mayor. I can't validate that.
Yeah, thank you. I
Thank you
appreciate
very
that.
much. Councillors ask if anyone would like to speak against the motion. Would like to speak for the motion?
Councillors, briefly, I support this motion in its initial form. The reasons are a little bit all over the place, admittedly, but I think the detail is sufficient to highlight that we have an issue. And I mean, I certainly don't agree with the issue about managing climate change. It simply doesn't fit with me, as you all know. I think the issues about the number of trees, defining a tree, whether it's actually a sapling or a tree, and perhaps overhyping the response that the state would read, it would not be in our best favour. But councillors, this has something that we are all aware of, and that is water issues. Horse Swamp is a significant area. I've known that area for over 35 years. It does inundate with water seasonally. The outflow from that is in multiple directions, but the point I make is that we raise the land around that, and we're perhaps going to significantly impact that ecosystem. So for me, it's a matter of being absolutely focused on not just this site, but the whole northeast corridor. We have seen circumstances and heard information tonight about flooding issues. We've only had just above a normal winter. If we get a wet one, we're going to be swimming. And this was highlighted right back in the 90s, and Jan Zek, who was a councillor at the time, and I argued those issues very significantly then. So if we basically say to the state, please address those issues, and if they do, fine. I'm more than happy to see that area developed, providing we don't destroy everything around it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Henderson. I'll ask anyone like to speak against the motion. Anyone like to speak for the motion? Councillor Singh.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Look, I fully support the motions raised by Councillor Catalano because I'm the resident of the Bennett Spring as well from a couple years. And what I felt about Bennett Springs, just firstly I said we are not against any development. We understand we need more houses, housing crisis, everything. But we have to look the interest about the communities and lifestyle around the livelihoods, especially in the Bennett Spring. If we can, because I'm about 3 years in the council and see what we achieved for the Bennett Spring is nothing. We always to requesting in small things like sometimes water fountains, dog parks, and very small things. If I'm just to go with some list is Bennett Spring has not any own Bennett Spring primary school. That's also under the state responsibility. If we go through like community centers, I'm already requesting last 2 months, I think before once, we need a community centers in Bennett Spring, where's the land, and always answered, we have no lands. But suddenly the lands available for the state projects, maybe that's a long-term projects. I'm not aware of that. So ongoing issues around that suburbs and new developments, we are not very happy with that, and the community not happy with that. So like flooding and all other environmental issues. So the community have no trust more on any state or government's projects. We're not against any of the developers, any particular state representatives, but while we faced a lot problems from last couple months, especially this year when the flooding issue in Dayton, and Councillor Catalan already mentioned about Brabham as well, and the Swan Valley. So I seen all the emails always from all the residents around living in the Swan Valley. So please rethink everything before you propose anything. I know this is we here for a comments on this project. It's going to be overruled. It happened before. But as a councillor, our responsibility, we have to take a responsible action, and as my term, I have done my best. So I request other councillors, so please rethink about, I thought it's a Bennett Spring just used for more state, if I'm talking about film cities, I don't know how much benefits taking the Bennett Spring residents. If we're talking about this now big projects, if it's flyovers, anything, so what's about the lifestyle living around the heavy traffics in the Bennett Spring area? So I'm the residence next to the Reed Highway and the Drumpy Drive.
Very much, Councillor Singh.
So thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I just want to say, just think about the lifestyle, think about the more facility about the Bennett Spring.
And that's
they have
your
nothing for the
3
Bennett
minutes.
Spring
Thank
at this
you.
stage. Thank you very much.
And I'll ask, is there anyone like to speak against the motion? Councillor Bowman.
On both. So you take your pick, Madam Mayor.
Thanks. Can you just turn that off, Councillor Singh, please? Councillor Singh, your microphone. The microphone, thank you.
Madam Mayor, I concur in some parts with Councillor Miles. It's great to see the state government finally working out what a TOD is, but they haven't done a good job. They lost it on Whiteman, and I don't think they've done a good job on here. I think they need to go further. Councillor Singh mentioned about nothing but a water fountain in Bennett Springs. Perhaps, Councillor Singh, you should be fighting more for your community if that's all you've got in your 3 years. But I also agree with Councillor Henderson. I don't agree with all the reasons, but I agree with the principle. And the principle is, for me, that we can't keep kicking this problem, this can, down the road. We can't allow our community, our ratepayers, to eventually have to pay for this massive problem. The state government will do what the state government wants to do. We have no power in planning, we all know that. We've seen a memo a couple of weeks ago when something got overridden with a new legislation. But Madam Mayor, we need to send a message to those who think they can bulldoze their way through local government planning and That message is our community is not going to pay the cost. If state government wants a development, let them pay the cost. And it's not just the cost of losing trees, it's not the cost of building roads, it's the future cost that we're hearing time and time again that our community is already incurring and will continue to incur. Councillors, we need to send that message. I'm not saying it's a bad idea, but I'm saying until the state government fixes this problem, until we get the feedback from DUA, the report, we should be saying no to this.
Thank you, Councillor Bowman. Councillors Lask, anyone like to speak for the motion? Anyone like to speak against the motion? No? Your right of reply.
Thank you. I'm so glad you raised the issue of the TOD, the transit orientated development, because this is not a TOD. This is a TOD. I tell you what a TOD would be in that area. It would be a large expanse of parking so that people from Dayton and from Bennett Springs and possibly even Caversham could drive in, park their cars and take the train to Perth. They don't need to take the train to Ellenbrook. They can drive to Ellenbrook. They will take the train to Perth, right? And what you would have, if it was a transit, if it was a proper TOD, you would have apartments. And you would have apartments that were nicely designed, that were marketed because they were next to Whiteman Park. You would retain mature trees. I mean, why am I doing the planners work for them, for God's sake? Because we know that this has been hijacked, not by good planning outcomes or by TODs. It's been hijacked by somebody that wants to put in large-scale development that is not sustainable, okay? Now, at the end of the day, there should be apartments, and the other problem we have with apartments is you can't sell apartments because it's too far out of Perth. So the whole idea of putting a train station basically next to a park was wrong from the very beginning. We know that down at Whiteman, people are not going to walk from Brabham to that train station because it's actually not safe to do so. I mean, that's not only the fact that it's hot and raining and all that kind of stuff, but if you're walking that at night, it'd be very frightening. It's not safe. It's not safe to walk those distances. Just the same, if people were going to use the train station, if they were living in Dayton, it's a hell of a long way to walk. They'd have to drive their cars in. But the whole point is, if you're going to put 1,200 residents in this small area with no facilities whatsoever, those people are going to have a car. If you don't put apartments in, if you put what this improvement plan is talking about in, they're going to have a car because they've got to drive to the shops. They've got to drive to the schools. See, that's the car. It's not a transit-orientated development is to stop people using cars, just like they do in Europe, in the big cities in Europe. Because the people are there, they're living high density, and they take the train to get to where they want to go. But this is not going to happen here. So that's why it's wrong on all accounts.
Thank you, Councillor Catalano. And now, councillors, will put that to the vote. And I'll just remind councillors that we will need someone to move the officer's recommendation. Thank you very much. Councillors, those in favour? Councillor Catalano, Councillor Singh, Councillor Bowman, Councillor Jones, Councillor McCulloch. Councillor Zanino, Councillor Henderson, Councillor Brodovnik, Deputy Mayor Johnson and Councillor Howlett, and those against are Councillor Miles and myself. It's carried, thank you. 9-2, 10-2. Thank you, councillors. Now we have another item. We had item 14.4.1, which was withdrawn by Deputy Mayor Johnson for debate, and that's on page 249.
Questions?
Question?
Remove the officer's recommendation, Madam Mayor.
Yep. So we'll move the officer's recommendation, and the mover was Councillor Miles? No, sorry?
Who's moving?
No, it was you. Councillor Miles, happy to move. Seconder? You need a seconder to move the officer's recommendation. Thank you, Councillor Jones. And is there anyone against?
Questions? So I'd like to ask, through you, Madam Mayor, to the CEO, will the CEO get the infographic updated with the new information we've received?
Mr. CEO?
So through the chair, I've raised that today with the executive director, Place stakeholder, to look at a new infographic.
Thank you. And I'd just like to thank the CEO for the spreadsheets he sent around, which have made it quite clear to me. But I've got a question. It says the spreadsheets are confidential. Why are they confidential? Can they not be made public?
Through the chair, you have been given information in the emails which contained commercial and confidence components. They relate to the rates we are paying to third parties for disposal or processing of waste, which are subject to contracts. Those rates are not in accordance with other rates that other parties are paying. So that's why the information has remained confidential. I've also included in the email to you information pertaining to what another local government is currently paying for, or I believe is paying for its rates, and that information is commercial and confidence as well.
So I guess the question is, can we have a sanitised version of those spreadsheets that can be made public? Because I think it's very interesting information. So removing all the commercial and confidence information.
Through the chair.
Thank you.
So through the chair, the infographic will provide you the information in the form that's able to go out to the public.
All right. Next question is, we've got EMRC landfill information. Do we have the EMRC member rate for 25-26? Obviously, we're not paying it, but we do. Do we know what it is?
Through the chair, the EMRC's fees and charges are published on their website. If they're choosing to charge a rate, and I've just looked at the website a minute ago, that's not published, then we don't have access to that.
But is the member rate public information then?
So through the chair, all the published information on the website is there. It does not include anything that indicates that there's a different rate to the materials that I've given you.
Okay, but it doesn't include this year's member rate. It includes the previous year's member rate. And I'm just thinking about my final question. Is that EMRC information you've given us in the email, is that public? Can we publish that information?
Through the chair, no. For the same reasons, it's commercial and confidence parts of that relate to negotiations undertaken with the EMRC to provide residents with a beneficial outcome.
Okay. Back to, we had Councillor Miles as the mover, Councillor Jones as the seconder, and then I asked anyone to speak against the motion.
Unless anyone's against it.
No one's against. That's carried. Thank you. And councillors, move on to the last item, which was the item that was withdrawn for debate, which is 14.4.1. Oh, sorry, my apologies. That was that. And now we're on to the last part, which is 15. Notice of which previous notice has been given, there was nil. And part 16, which is the confidential reports, there was also nil. Part 17, notice of motions for consideration at the following meeting if given during the meeting. We've received 2 potential notices of motion from Councillor Henderson, and the deadline for submissions will be 5 p.m. on Wednesday the 22nd of October 2025. Well, this brings us to the closure of tonight's meeting, but before we all depart for the evening, I have a special announcement, and I'd like to thank all council members for their hard work over the last 2 years, and those who are up for election, good luck and the best of luck as well. Now we await the results of the election. But lastly, tonight marks the final meeting for Councillor Patty Jones before her well-earned retirement. Councillor Jones has lived in Ellenbrook since 1998 and was first elected to council in 2009. She has worked on many issues in Pearce Ward since that time, with a special focus on the elderly, the youth and disadvantaged. Councillor Jones, during your time on this council, you've shown compassion, a genuine sense of community, a love by many, and you've been committed to responding to community needs and working closely with residents and businesses. I believe I speak for all of us here tonight in thanking you for your tremendous contribution over those years. Your commitment to the City of Swan and Council is a great source of admiration and one that many would find very hard to live up to. Thank you for the many, many hours that you put in work hours and after our work hours, because that dedication that you've shown is truly amazing. It's been an absolute honour to work with you over these last few years, and we wish you a very long and happy retirement. And just on behalf of the council, I'd like to thank you very much. So thank you, Patty, and I think everyone for wish you well. Thank you. You are going to be very, truly, very sorely missed, and we hope that you find some recreation time in your spare time. And on behalf of the council, we'd like to say a huge, huge thank you, as we said, and hope to see you still out in the community. So thank you very, very much.
Can I say something?
You definitely can.
I just want to say thank you to everybody for a wonderful 16 years, really. I mean, it has its ups and downs, but I've learnt so much. I've met so many people, and hopefully you'll continue doing what you do. I know it's a lot of work to be a councillor, and it's a lot of it is you get nasty comments, but most of it is great. And I just want to thank everybody, especially the staff that I've worked with for a long, long time. It's going to be quite sad. I'll miss you all, but I'm not going away, really. I'll be back.
Thank you very much. Thank you again very, very much. Thank you, councillors. And that concludes tonight's council meeting, and I hereby close the meeting at 7:07 p.m.